Welcome to this edition of Border Report Live. My name is Rudy Mireles, and I'm your host here in Harlingen, Texas, in the Rio Grande Valley of deep South Texas. Got a great program lined up for you today. Our El Paso correspondent, Julian Resendiz, is going to be joining us in just a little bit to talk about a whole myriad of different headlines making news across the border, and a really interesting one as well when it comes to a different type of tourism that's happening just right across the border. So we'll get into that with him in just a few moments. We're also going to hear from our South Texas correspondent, Sandra Sanchez, on a new federal plan to put some barriers up along the Rio Grande, but it's not the kind of barriers that you're thinking about. So we're going to talk about that in a little bit as well. But first, let's go ahead and take a look at what's making headlines across the border, starting with a chase involving Border Patrol agents ended in a crash Tuesday afternoon in Chicago's southeast side, sparking a tense standoff between residents and law enforcement. Two teenagers, both U.S. citizens, say they were wrongly detained during the incident. Homeland Security says the incident began after a person suspected of being in the country illegally allegedly rammed a Border Patrol vehicle. The chase lasted for half an hour before a DHS vehicle performed what's called a pit maneuver, kind of just bumping into it to get it to stop, which did end up being successful in stopping that SUV. The two immigrants fled, but were eventually taken into custody. A large crowd began to form, and officers with the Chicago Police Department responded to try and defuse the situation. Tear gas was deployed after several objects were thrown at officers. Two teens were detained from the large group, and they were eventually released when it was determined that they were U.S. citizens. Now, in a statement, the Department of Homeland Security said this incident is not isolated and reflects a growing and dangerous trend of illegal aliens violently or resisting arrest and agitators and criminals ramming cars into our law enforcement officers. Also happening one state over, White House border czar Tom Homan met with lawmakers Tuesday at the Indiana State House to highlight the Trump administration's immigration policies. Now, during the event in the House chambers, Homan urged lawmakers to support what they call the Fairness Act. If passed, the state could punish employers who knowingly hire undocumented immigrants. Homan said, quote, "Whatever you can do, state of Indiana, to help us make Indiana safer," end quote. A similar bill passed out of the Indiana House this past session, but did die in a Senate committee. Also happening, U.S. Senator John Cornyn, a Republican from Texas, said his legislation that would allow the Department of Defense to train Mexican military forces in the United States to combat cartels in Mexico passed the Senate today. In a statement, Cornyn said Texas shares more than 1,200 miles of common border with Mexico, and bilateral cooperation is essential to stop the flow of deadly drugs and keep people safe, end quote. He said the legislation would empower the Department of Defense to train Mexican military forces in counter-narcotic efforts to crack down on cartels and bolster the national security of both countries. You'll remember last month we actually told you about Mexican military troops driving through Texas to take part in some training operations in Louisiana. Now, to bring in our South Texas, our El Paso correspondent, Julian Resendiz, to give us a little bit on his reporting. Now, Julian, this next story has to do rather with what's going on the other side of the border. Fill us in.
Yes, Rudy. We have yet another incredible story coming out of Mexico, and that is that the country has been beset in the past week by heavy rains. There's flooding all over several states, and there's a lot of fatalities. A total of 65 or 66 have been reported in the past week, primarily in states near the Gulf. We're talking about Veracruz, and one state over, we're talking about Puebla, and some other states in the east central portion of Mexico. Now, the government has been trying to help the people who were afflicted by the floods. They've been clearing roads. They've been trying to restore electricity. They've been effecting rescues. But what's catching people's attention and what's drawing a lot of criticism and comments right now are some videos that have appeared on social media and the internet. They show uniformed armed members of a drug cartel, the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, handing over food, bags with food and medicines to residents. They claim that it's taking place in the areas affected by the floods. In that video, you can see a large black sticker. It says it has the name of the cartel, and it also has the date just I guess so people don't think that this is from some other time. It has October 2025. This has precipitated a storm of comments and criticisms, both against the cartel, how dare they usurp the functions of the Mexican government, as well as the Mexican government, how dare you allow members of a cartel armed to the teeth in plain sight, in public, do this? And why don't you stop them? Why do you let them? Are you not in control? Those are some of the thousands of comments that have followed the appearance of this video. There are further photographs that I have seen. I don't have them with me right now to show, but I have seen photos of cartel members going to people's houses and taking pictures with them after allegedly providing assistance. Now, the president of Mexico was forced to address this issue yesterday. We have a soundbite with the president talking about this.
Saw the videos. We are not certain they are videos of real disaster areas, but that obviously is not right. In Poza Rica, Veracruz, and Alamo, the heavy machines are arriving to do the cleaning and hoping we can deliver food to the people this weekend.
And right after that, the Mexican government released images. I believe we also have those images of their relief efforts. We see heavy machinery cleaning up roads. First of all, we see the extent of the disaster. It washed down mountainsides, cluttered roads. It also washed away entire bridges over rivers. So it was really, really bad. And then we see legitimate Mexican soldiers participating in some of the cleanup efforts. So this video kind of provoked this crisis and raise some legitimate questions. Do the cartels control certain parts of the country that they can be out there just doing relief efforts for propaganda? Obviously, it's for propaganda. They're not good guys. I've also consulted with some of the experts in international security who say this is not the first time that the cartels have taken advantage either of a natural disaster or poverty itself to paint themselves as the good guys and to take videos of themselves and promote themselves online, distributing those videos. So definitely it's a shocking event going on.
Well, and that was going to be, my first question to you is the Hearts and Minds campaign, essentially. We saw this, and not to compare, the U.S. military to cartel organizations, but one of the big missions in both Iraq and Afghanistan, especially during the height of the surge of troops in, around 2003, and even myself, who was deployed to the Middle East a few times, one of the things they always hammered into us is we're here to win hearts and minds first and foremost, playing the good guy and not just, getting rid of the so-called bad guys, but really, delivering this sense of hope and this sense of help to the locals. How important is that, especially with what we've seen the cartels doing on social media recently? How important is this kind of heart and mind campaign to their organizations?
That is definitely one of the goals of this cartel, the Jalisco New Generation cartel, as well as the other cartels that operate in Mexico, to paint themselves as good guys, to paint themselves as Robin Hoods. The difference between the true army troops coming in and delivering assistance, cleaning up roads, is that you don't expect those same people to turn around and kidnap you or try to hook your children on methamphetamine or cocaine or other drugs. So that I would say that's the main difference, and also the reason why the Mexican government is trying to quickly counter this PR campaign from the Jalisco New Generation cartel, which is one of the most ruthless criminal organizations in Mexico, and one of the targets of U.S. officials having designated them as a foreign terrorist organization. But definitely, it begs the question: are they in control of certain enclaves of Mexico?
It definitely begs that question. I do, want to mention, because we've talked about this, you and I, before, about how difficult it is for the federal government in Mexico to kind of combat this messaging that they're putting out there. I assume that these heart and minds campaigns are just as difficult for the federal government. It almost seems like they're having to be reactive in their messaging in this case.
They were definitely taken by surprise by this, and this was an opportunistic effort on the part of the cartel. And it's something that we can expect to see over and over again. We're not the targets of the cartel propaganda. The impoverished people, the unfortunate victims of natural disasters, are their target. And again, that's a challenge for the Mexican government to beat the cartel to the punch and to reach all these outlying marginalized communities before the criminals do and paint themselves as the good guys.
All right. Well, thank you for your reporting on this, Julian. Julian Resendiz, our El Paso correspondent for BorderReport.com and Border Report Live. He's going to join us after we take a quick break to talk about another very interesting kind of tourism that's happening along the border. And I'm really looking forward to this conversation. But stay with us. Border Report Live is back in 1 minute. Welcome back to this edition of Border Report Live. Bringing back in now our El Paso correspondent, Julian Resendiz. Julian, you and I have talked about different types of, cross-border traffic going there, coming back, people from over there coming here and vice versa. Typically when we think about, local tourism or even, people coming from outside the border region to visit Mexico just on the other side of the Rio Grande, we're talking medical tourism or, things like that. But you've got your eyes on a new set of kind of tourism. Why don't you tell us about it?
Yes, really. That's what happens when you're able to cross the border and see what's happening on the other side. And like you said, it's not unusual for Americans to visit Mexican border cities like Tijuana, like Juarez, like Matamoros or Reynosa or Nuevo Laredo to get to go to see the doctor, to get some dental work done. Now, what we discover is that there are a lot of young people, especially from the El Paso, southern New Mexico area, who are going across the border and patronizing tattoo studios. They're going to see sleeve artists and people who work with ink and come up with all these elaborate designs. So we venture into one of these shops in East Juarez, and we talked to one of the artists out there, talked to some of his clients, and the artist says, "Yeah, absolutely. I get a lot of people from the U.S." for the very same reason that doctors and dentists do, because prices are less expensive than in the U.S. And because they get to talk to the provider. It's not like going into a doctor's office, talking to the nurse, waiting half an hour, and then seeing the doctor for 2 minutes, and that's it. The medical providers pride themselves in listening to you, in spending time with you, and that's the same kind of a business model that these artists are taking in Juarez. Now, we talked to a guy named Alex Martinez, and he showed us some of his design. I believe we have some video of him working on a client from the U.S., a young man from El Paso who sells insurance, who heard about this artist a while ago, and he's been going back several times to see him and to get some of the art tattooed on his skin.
So I came over here to Mexico to get a tattoo done, just because of the prices, and I love my people. I love being here. I love the all the art that that they're making here.
Now, one of the things that you have to be mindful of when you cross the border and get a tattoo is that there are some nuances, and these nuances. It could be something positive or it could be something negative. The advantages are that you're talking to the artist for the full 2 hours or 3 hours that he's working on the piece of art in your skin. But also you need to listen to him because when you go to Mexico, you got to be aware that certain tattoos are not just gang associated, but they're cartel associated. And the artist was saying, well, I always tell my clients, well, just so you know, you want this done, but just so you know, the Aztecas or the Mexicans gangs kind of use the same thing. And we're talking about not just about the piles of skulls or the machine gun drawings or some other obvious icons. We're also talking about numbers. Some of the gangs just love number 13 and number 18. And Tren de Aragua, the Venezuelan gang that has come to the border, that has come into the U.S., they have appropriated the number 23 because that's Michael Jordan's own number, and they associate that with greatness in their mind. So definitely, if you go across the border, you got to be mindful that some images might get you in trouble in Mexico, and some numbers could do that as well. As far as taking the tattoo back to the U.S., obviously, a lot of people have tattoos. According to the Pew Center, almost a third of Americans have at least one tattoo, and 22% of Americans have multiple tattoos. So it's not unusual in the U.S. It's not that unusual in Mexico. Just be aware of what your tattoo might be saying to other people down there.
You know, it's very interesting that you mentioned that part because, you know, when I think medical tourism, for example, and we've had cases here just across the border from the Rio Grande Valley in South Texas, where people either from the local area or from across the country come to visit. They, you know, get a doctor's appointment for some kind of cosmetic surgery procedure, and they end up leaving with an infection that unfortunately kills them later on down the road. And again, we've had this just recently in the last year or so. I believe we have 2 cases. We also had the case a couple years ago of a family group, or rather a group of people from the East Coast, Florida, and then the Carolina region come, and they just were in the wrong place at the wrong time and got caught up during ambushed by cartels. 2 individuals ended up dying. So when we think of, you know, the concerns that arise from that kind of tourism, the one thing we never think of is what you mentioned, is what kind of association these tattoos might have with, you know, something negative in their country.
Yes, Rudy. We talked with the artist, with Mr. Martinez, and he totally coincides with that point of view. He says that before you go to Mexico to see an artist such as him, document yourself, find out stuff about him, either from friends of yours who recommend him, or online. I mean, over here on the border, most of us are bilingual. We can definitely see what comments are being posted on both sides of the border about that particular artist. And of course, reach out to him if you have any concerns. Now, this artist in particular says, well, there's some obvious things. Number one, my shop is on a tourist trip on East Juarez near the Zaragoza district, which is right next to the border. It's a commercial strip. Also, I do have some equipment here, some first aid equipment that's visible to you. So that tells you that I'm on the level. Those are some of the things that you should look for. But like I said, before you set foot across the border for this kind of tourism, find out about the artist, see what rep he's got, see what other people are saying, and contact those other people, especially if they're part of your network of friends online. Reach out to them and ask them, is it safe? Is he good? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
but definitely, this is something new and unique. Yeah, the U.S.-Mexico border.
Yeah, very, very interesting reporting on this. We appreciate your time today, Julian, and we'll see you later this week. All right, well, stay with us because coming up next we have our South Texas correspondent Sandra Sanchez to talk about a few different new barriers going up along the Rio Grande and other parts of the border as well. We'll tell you all about it when we come back. Border Report Live is back in 1 minute. Welcome back to this edition of Border Report Live. My name is Rudy Mireles, and I'm your host here in Harlingen, Texas, in the Rio Grande Valley of deep South Texas. Time now to bring in our South Texas correspondent, Sandra Sanchez, to talk about some new barriers that are going to be going up along the Rio Grande. Hey, Sandra.
Hi, Rudy. Yeah, the Department of Homeland Security recently announced $4.5 billion on 230 miles of new border barrier. But get this, 80 miles will be waterborne barrier in South Texas. So what's really interesting about this, and we mentioned before that there had been plans announced for 17 miles of waterborne barrier here in Cameron County, where we are, from Brownsville up to near SpaceX on the Rio Grande. And that DHS confirmed is going to cost $96 million for that. But what they also announced was an additional 60 3 more miles of this waterborne barrier. And both of those will be in the Del Rio Eagle Pass area. It's technically called the Del Rio sector. So we're expecting right now, as you know, there is a 1,000-foot long section of border buoys that were put up by Governor Abbott's Operation Lone Star 2 years ago, and that cost $1 million for 1,000 square feet. Now, we expect waterborne means buoys.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. We say waterborne. We're talking Eagle Pass area and up there by Del Rio. You mentioned Governor Abbott's barrier, and that was like a buoy system with some kind of spikes and stuff on it. Is this going to be something similar?
Well, we believe it is. I think actually we have video showing that I've shot up there in Eagle Pass, and we've shown this before. The balls are like 4 feet wide, and there are spikes in the middle. And, we know that President Trump has visited this area. He has seen the buoy system. We know Governor Abbott has touted the attributes of this buoy system. And so I have point blank asked DHS a number of times, will these new 80 miles of waterborne barrier include buoys? And they're not answering, but we fully expect that we will see something to this effect. But what they are saying is that included in this new package of border barrier it's going to be something called a smart wall. They're saying this includes technology upgrades, patrol roads, lights, cameras, advanced detection system, along with 30-foot tall bollards. So, when we're talking about the border barrier, the buoys costing $1 million for 1,000 feet, that's all you saw there. You didn't see cameras. You didn't see anything else with it, no bells and whistles. So DHS has said, yes, we're going to add all these additional attributes to this huge package. And as we know, the Big Beautiful Bill funding had $46 billion for border wall in it. So $4.5 billion is just a little bit.
Yeah, and this smart wall, it really seems like almost like I don't know if it's intentional, but almost a way to compromise with what some of the people on the other side of the aisle have been calling for, saying we need more infrastructure and intelligence gathering tools along the border instead of a wall. This, I guess, will kind of combine it all in one thing.
Yeah, I think so. And in addition to the 80 miles of waterborne, it's going to be 150 miles of border wall, traditional border wall added. And there are projects in San Diego, El Centro, which is Southern California, Yuma, which is Arizona, and Tucson, and El Paso. There are 3 projects slated for El Paso. We have the complete breakdown at borderreport.com. Some of these are going to be secondary walls. Like in California, they usually put 2 walls up beside each other just to make it harder to cross. So, it's a myriad of how they're going to put this up. But as you mentioned, it could also involve, since they say technology, maybe drone systems, maybe launch pads for drones, because we know Mexico has many, and we know that we historically have not. So, very anxious and interested to see exactly what they're putting up. But so far, the information we have it on borderreport.com. And the same company, BCCG Joint Venture out of Montgomery, Alabama, has the contracts for all 3 waterborne barrier systems, whatever that may mean.
Yeah, and I mean, this isn't the same company that worked on Operation Lone Star's contract? Do you know that information?
No, I don't know that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's something we'll definitely find that answer out and get back to you at home who may be watching today. Very interesting stuff. And, it seems like it's kind of part of what Governor Abbott was kind of hoping for, right? A little bit of, hey, we did this, you should do it too.
Well, yeah, and we know they've had those conversations, and we know that President Trump has touted Texas for, as he said, stepping up and using their own resources to patrol and to prevent illegal immigration across the border. So I suspect we are going to see buoys, but we'll let you know. We'll get the first photos up right here once we see them.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your reporting today, Sandra. Sandra Sanchez, our South Texas correspondent, joining us today. And really quick, before we go, we wanted to remind you that if you would like to know more about Sandra's reporting, Julian's reporting, or reporting from our San Diego correspondent, Salvador Rivera, you can always get more information if you can get this entire program in podcast form now. So if you're on your commute, if you're walking the dogs, maybe you're at the grocery store getting your stuff for the week, you can now catch up with Border Report Live on Apple Podcasts, the iHeartRadio app, as well as Spotify and YouTube. So make sure to search up Border Report Live. Go ahead, like, subscribe it, give us a listen. Hey, maybe you don't want to see my face every day. You can just listen to my voice instead. All right. Well, that's going to do it for us today. We appreciate you so much for being here. Looking forward to seeing you tomorrow. Have a great day.